Hello, everybody! Welcome back to my little corner of the internet where I will talk about stories of my life, my work both as a comic book author and a translator, my cats Hey Hey, Serengeti, and Conidella, and the occasional movie, book, or TV series review and recommendation, as well as some rants if the feeling hits. We all have probably heard the sentiment that there is nothing like family and the love of your family. We also know that, unfortunately, that is not 100% truth, and there are some families in real life that are terrible, and that if someone wants to break all contact with them, it's not only recommended, but sometimes needed for one's own mental health. But in fiction, and with certain families, one can be lucky enough to have the one that you want to keep close as it's humanly possible, because, well, they are your family and you really love them, and they love you back. Another well known proverb is, there is no place like home. And well, that can be very hard for people who were born in a country, but for reasons outside their control, had to move to another, or people who are from a specific culture, but live far away from the country where said culture was born, diaspora people. Immigrants have a lot of stories about leaving their country and learning to live in a new one, and of course, the children of said immigrants who were born in the new country but still keep their old culture, they also have some hard challenges. But what about the ones who have to return to a country they don't fully know? Let's talk about Govindudu Andarivadele and the love of Indian natives for their home country and culture. Govindudu Andarivadele, also known as Gav, which is how I will call it from now on to avoid butchering Telugu more than usual, debuted in 2014, written and directed by Krishna Vamsi, who has been a big name in Tollywood since 1995, and started Ram Charan. And yes, I know, right now I am very focused on the boys from RRR, but I promise I will expand my recommendations to other actors in the future. Prakash Raj, Srikant, and Kajal Arwal. Of those, we have already seen Prakash Raj before in my Rex, as he was the amazingly evil Walter Basu in Temper, and as Mila Dakshinamurti in Rakastalam. Kajal, on the other hand, was both Intu and Mitra Binda in Magadira, so she is also a familiar face, and we know she has a lot of chemistry with Charan. The story is sort of maybe kinda inspired by the 1991 Tollywood drama Sitarayama Gari Manavaralu, Sitarayama's granddaughter, which in turn was based on the novel Navina Kanele by Masana. Which means that this is the second Telugu movie I covered that was inspired by a previous film with a heroine that was turned into a story about a hero. Funny how that works. However, unlike Narashimudu, Gab is not a remake. The only commonalities between Gab and Sitaramaya Gari Manavaralu is that both have a main character who is an NRI, that is, a non-resident Indian who travels back to India in order to heal a years-long family feud that has affected 3 generations. Now, a non-resident Indian, an NRI, is a citizen of India who is not currently living in the country. NRIs can be both people who were born in India but had to immigrate for a number of different reasons, or people born to Indian parents, or at least one Indian parent, who doesn't live in India. This is an official status, by the way, and it requires some bureaucracy, but basically an NRI who is officially accepted as a PEO, or person of Indian origin, or an OCI, overseas citizen of India, has a permanent visa to visit India with a foreign passport. Now, we will go back to how that plays in Gab, but first, bit of numbers. The movie began development in 2010 when Chiranjeevi, Charan's father, in a producer's role, suggested to Krishna Vamsi to make a movie with his son. And this was kept on hold for a while because Krishna was looking for a good plot, although interviews point out that he had an idea to what to do even in 2010. It was not until 2014 when they finally released the poster and announced that it would be a movie that explored the identity of Telugu audiences. There were certain hiccups in the early casting, as Raj Kiran, a very respected Tamil actor, was originally cast and shot a few scenes as Balaraju Rao, But Bamsi finally felt that the actor made the movie look more like a Tamil movie, as told by Ram Charan in an interview with The Hindu, where he also said that he was happy to know many NRIs while making the films, learning how they don't lose their cultural values and are quite informed about their festivals and rituals. But then they decided to move to Prakash Raj, which personally I think it was a great idea because he kills in the role. The movie was finally released in 2014, and it even got an American release in 154 screens in the USA, becoming a huge success with very positive reviews from most critics. It got Kajal Agarwal, Prakash Raj, and Srikanth nominations for Best Actress in Telugu and Supporting Actor in Telugu in the second Filmfare Award South, as well as the fourth South Indian International Movie Awards in the same categories, together with the movie Conidela Walk My Trill. I may leave that. Okay, where was I? Oh, yes. Together with the movie itself as Best Telugu Film, and Ram Charan won Best Actor together with Jaya Shunda, who plays his grandmother Baby, Best Supporting Actress, in the 13th Santosham Film Awards. Finally, and before I get to the plot and themes, Gabi is the first non-masala film I cover. This is a straight family drama. Of course, it has a couple of action scenes because you do not have Ram Charan in your cast and not use him in an action scene, but the plot and mood of the film is quite linear. We are not going to have surprise ninjas, that's what I mean. And yes, in a masala film, surprise ninjas are always a possibility. Or an avenging fly. We will talk about the avenging fly in a future video. As a curiosity, it was dubbed as Jevadu 2 in Hindi. But trust me, if you have seen Jevadu, which is on Netflix, so if you like it RRR, it might have been recommended to you. Gav has absolutely nothing to do with it. Past the fact that Ram Charan acts in both, and that his name is Ramed Ram by some people, because all of his characters are named Ram or Charan, with very, very few exceptions. Yes, Tribble, I agree with you. The Tribble name is Baby. By now, we have the drill for Tollywood movie videos reviews memorized, right? If you are intrigued and want to watch the movie blind, it can be found on Intuition TV, which is a very good free service for streaming Indian movies of all languages and does not sponsor me, and it is also perfectly legal. So, from here on, there will be spoilers and a lot of them, because as William Rosenberg once said, a beige disclaimer is no one's friend. Garu begins in London with Dr. Chandrasekhar Rao, a widower who lives quite comfortably with his older son Abiram, called Abi by his friends, and younger daughter Indu, as well as his brother-in-law. Well, I think he's his brother-in-law. They never give him a name. They never say why he's in the house, but he's there. He's about to be named Dean of Medicine at the university where he teaches, the first Indian to be put in such a position, and thus the community has been celebrating him for weeks, although only Abiram goes to the actual ceremonies since everyone else was busy preparing a surprise party for the dog. However, once the ceremony begins, instead of Dr. Rao getting the honor, this is given to a different white doctor. While everybody is disappointed, and at least one of Dr. Rao's best friends insists that it has to be because of racism, Dr. Rao seems to be quite accepting of the situation. It is not until Abby confronts him directly when he admits that the reason why he is so calm is because he feels this was his karma. At the confusion of Abby and Indu, the good doctor tells them that they have a big family in India that neither Abby nor Indu knew about, and shows them a photo of said family when he was younger, and the family is formed by his father, his mother, his younger brother Bangari, and his three sisters who never get a name. He explains that his father, their grandfather, Balaraju, was the head of the village, probably still is, and was a hard-working man who cared a lot for the good being of the village, sending Chandrasekhar to study medicine so that he could build a hospital for the village because no doctor would come to stay there as it was a poor farmer's village and thus not a place to become rich and famous. However, the day the hospital was to be opened, Chandrasekhar came back home with his girlfriend, Kaushulaya, who would become Avis and Indu's mom, but dies off screen way before the movie starts, and told his father that he didn't want to stay in the village where he saw no future, and instead he and Kausulaya would get married and move to the United States, where he had the chance to earn a lot of money as a doctor. This upset Balaraju, who immediately disowned Chandrasekhar, announced that the hospital was closed and declared that Chandrasekhar should not even return to perform his last rites, which for an Indian family is huge. To Balaraju's horror, although Chandrasekhar didn't know it at the time, a woman died giving birth because she and her husband were waiting for the hospital to be open and for their son or daughter to be their first child born in the village hospital. So then the hospital is abandoned and Chandrasekhar left with Kalusaya. Because of this, he never spoke to his family in India again. Here's where we get one of the main subjects of the movie, besides family union: the respect one should have for the farmers in India. See, part of the argument between Chandrasekhar and Balaraju is that Chandrasekhar says that since the village is just a farming village, a practitioner is more than enough, no need for a full hospital. Balaraju replies that not only was Chandrasekhar born of one of those wretched farmers, as Chandrasekhar calls them in anger, but more importantly, it was their hard work what put food on Chandrasekhar's plate and their money what made him become a doctor. That no matter how poor or rich a man is, it's their hard work what should be always respected and appreciated. A lesson that we should all remember, I think. In any case, Dr. Rao wakes up the next day to Indu being quite worried because Avi is not home. Not only that, they find a video on their computer where Avi cheerfully says that the actions of the past rule what happens in the present, then it means that action they take today will shape their future. So he's going to India to talk to his grandfather and make sure that the family can reunite, and by the time they get this video, he's already on the plane. Long-term planning is not one of Avi's strong points. Avi arrives to India and meets with his Facebook friend Bunny, Banda Babu. Although there's a funny moment when he realized that he had been sort of catfished, as Banda used the picture of Alu Arju, the movie star known as Bunny, and also Charan's cousin, as his Facebook photo. It's a inside joke for Telugu viewers. This is when the secondary theme of Loving Your Country comes in, because every single scene of Avi in India has him being fascinated by the sights and culture all around him, taking pictures of every little single thing. Banda wants Avi to stay for a while in the city, but Avi insists that he needs to go and asks Banda for him to loan him a bike to get to the town of his grandfather immediately. As a compromise, Banda agrees as long as Avi comes with him to a nightclub where he works at night, even if Avi doesn't drink as he promised his father he wouldn't. There, Avi sees a girl incredibly drunk dancing and takes a few pictures of her, which she notices when he tells her that she's a good dancer, and she comes to order a screwdriver. Amused, she kisses him in the cheek and gives him her number before being dragged away from her friends that are equally drunk. At this point, we realize that while Avi speaks Telugu, it is mixed with some Hindi and English, and sometimes other people do not understand him completely. The next day, Avi is on the road on Banda's bike, still amazed by the Indian countryside. Seriously, he stops every 5 seconds to take a picture with his cell phone, and he never stops admiring the place, and arrives to the town during the Sankaranti festival. There, he still sees the girl dancing in the club as part of his imagination, but that is soon forgotten when he comes upon an illegal cockfight. As he sees 2 men begin the bet, someone yells that Balaraju is there and everybody runs. Avi remains as he sees his grandfather, a bit older than in the picture he had seen, arrive and kick everybody's asses. That is when he finds out that one of the betting men was also Balaraju's grandnephew, while the other was no other than Bangari, Avi's uncle, who is obviously now not on speaking terms with his father. Avi introduces himself as an agriculture student who has come to learn about farming. As he follows Balaraju and Bangari to Balaraju's house, they find that a small child is in danger of falling from a huge height, and Avi and Bangari work together to save her. Although Bangari is very careful to never step into the house's property. This earns Avi the gratitude of the family and an invitation to stay in their house, but he refrains to telling them his true identity as part of the family, since he realizes that given how quick to anger his grandfather is, that will only make him run Abby out of town before he can even explain. Abby, nicknamed Ram by everyone as it's how Balarayu decides to call him now, quickly notices that his father's picture is put on with the dead relatives' photos. He also makes quick friends with his nieces, including the girl he saved, his cousin Chitra, and his sons and their husbands who lived there. He's still in contact with his dad, but doesn't tell him about how Bangari was also thrown out of the house. At the same time, he impresses Balaraju a lot with his willingness to learn every aspect of Telugu culture, including a martial art named Karamasu, which Balaraju teaches, and little by little he starts winning the trust and friendship of everybody in the family. That is, until the day when Satya, his cousin, arrives from college. That is because Satya is none other than the girl he saw at the bar. Satya immediately dislikes him because she has been telling the family that she's a very serious student who never parties, and of course Abby has photographic proof that that is not true. Even worse, she has become less observant of certain Telugu traditions, where Abby is trying to learn them so that makes their grandfather ask her why she can't be more like him at all times, and that makes her dislike him on sight. Still, Abby has more important things to worry about, as he finds the hospital that was built for his dad completely abandoned. Asking Balaraju about it only makes the man angry, but Abby cannot help but notice that the building was closed and never used, not destroyed when the land could have been used for something else. While getting to know the family better, Abby realizes that there is a big rivalry between his grandfather and his granduncle, and this extends to his cousin Bachi, who ends up in fights against Abby constantly, even if Abby tries hard not to fight against him as he knows his family. At the same time, Satya doesn't help things by telling Bangari about the photos Abby has of her and that he is blackmailing her, which he sorta is, which makes Bangari try to constantly get Abby in trouble. Of course, still without entering the family house. All of this comes to a head when Banjalaru finds out that a doctor wants to marry Satya, but before letting her get married, he needs to get Chitra married. As there is a communal wedding that day, he orders Chitra to get married. We never find out who the husband-to-be was supposed to be, by the way. Arranged marriages are very weird. But Satya lets Bangari know about it, and Bangari interrupts the wedding by kidnapping Chitra and trying to force her to marry him. Abby manages to stop this forced wedding, but in the process loses her cell phone, which Satya finds out, and finally realizes that Abby is her cousin, and after a very weird song sequence, they start a romance in secret. While Satya promises that she will also help to mend the rift between their grandfathers and Abby's dad. After a scare with Banjalaru's health, Abby manages to convince his grandfather to reopen the hospital, claiming that his dad is a famous London doctor and thus can get them the doctor and equipment they need, without telling Banjalaru how they are related. At the same time, Satya suggests to ask Chitra what the deal with Bangari is, in order to figure out how to solve that part of the puzzle. This is when things get a bit complicated, as they find out that Chitra is, in fact, in love with Bangari. But back when Bangari lived at the house, Banjalaru forbade the union due to Bangari's drinking habit, since he already had lost a daughter to an alcoholic husband. A daughter or a sister, I am not quite sure right now that I think of it. Trying to force his hand, one night while very drunk, Bangari entered Chitra's room and proposed to Chitra that if he raped her, yes, that, then his father would be forced to let them get married. Despite the language, by the way, the scene makes somewhat clear that Bangari thought Chitra would be agreeing, so it wouldn't really be rape, and it's a very weird and a little bit uncomfortable scene, I have to admit. In any case, as he's trying to get Chitra to agree, the family arrives to see him rip her bra off, and that's when Banjalaru threw Bangari out of the house. So Chitra is convinced that she will never marry because on one hand, Banjalaru will never approve of her union with Bangari, whom she still loves, but on the other, Bangari will never let her marry anyone else. And she doesn't want to marry anyone else, but she wants to marry Bangari with the permission of Banjalaru. very complicated. As Avi goes to get Bangari out of jail, he finds out that his grandfather's brother, his granduncle, has bailed Bangari out, but he doesn't know that they are feeding him more alcohol and trying to make him go against Banjalaru, in particular trying to convince him that Avi is there to take advantage of the young girls in the house, in a specific of Chitra. With this poison in his mind, the moment that the hospital equipment arrives to town with Avi's friend Bonnie, Bangari steals it and tries to destroy it. Avi manages to stop him, but during the fight, while Avi is trying not to hurt Bangari, one of the trucks catches fire. This is the last straw for Avi, and he's angry enough to almost hurt Bangari, but stops seconds before he does so and finally reveals to Bangari that they are family before going back to save the equipment. Bangari, touched by his nephew's action and finally figuring out that family is more important than alcohol, decides to change his way and helps him save the equipment that he himself put in danger, and not only helps Avi to make clear to their granduncle that they will not allow him to hurt Banjalaru anymore, but also joins the group that Avi has formed with Satya and Chitra in order to reunite the family. But because, of course, nothing can go easy after that, and we still have like an hour or so of movie, Avi's younger sister Indu has decided that she's tired of waiting and has also flown to India, ready to help her brother in any way she can without telling him that she was going. Seriously, long-term planning is not part of this family's genetic makeup. Govindudu Andarivadele is a beautiful postcard of the south of India, in particular the area where Telugu is spoken. The pride Banjalaru feels for his root is obvious in every line he says, and it's even made more explicit with the running gag of him or others insisting that he has to be addressed in Telugu, not in Hindi or English. And the wonder that Avi feels as he rediscovers the side roots is also tangible. While the movie is not perfect and leaves a couple of plot points hanging, in particular Banjalaru's rivalry with his own brother over his brother's wishes to industrialize the village more with the beer factory, is never solved or mentioned again once Bangari stops drinking thanks to Avi influence. It's still a nice and enjoyable film about family love, country pride, and the importance of admitting when you are wrong and being able to say that you are sorry. If you can watch it, you will not regret the 3-hour runtime. I want to thank my dear patrons Mitch Hyman, Elaine Ho, Jessica and Ali Riley, my coffee supporter Knight, as well as my first supporter Tanya Pineda and the most amazing Amy Song, without whom none of my videos would be possible. I also want to remind you that if you want to support this and my other projects and get your name mentioned here, you can do so at patreon.com/Annalisa, with the link on the description, as I know my name can be hard to spell, and with just $1 a month you will always be thanked in my videos, as well as get access to a ton of art before anyone else, and get the chance to suggest future subjects for videos. You can also support me through Ko-fi, and for each coffee you will get mentioned in 3 future videos. If you can't support me this way, I also accept likes, subscriptions to the channel, and of course, you sharing the links. I also welcome all your questions, feedbacks and suggestions in the comments below. This was Annalisa Zarate, and I will see you soon so we can grab another cup of coffee, or perhaps, as we're still on Tollywood, a cup of chai, and see a different look at family love and the consequences of one's acts. In Jai Lava Kusa.